Heartiest thanks once again from the behalf of Sandeep Astrology YouTube channel dedicated to enriching your insights with the knowledge and information from the den of the Vedic Hindu astrology that has remained so long unheard and undiscovered. So, today the topic of astrologization is going to be the analysis of the Rahu-Ketu Axis in the first house and the seventh house. At first, let's understand or decode the first house. First house is our ascendant, is our very self, is the way we conceptualize the stuffs in this world of Maya and react. Is our basic characteristic traits, always engrossed in the rat race of material pursuits, in the so-called Darwinian struggle of existence. And when Rahu posits there, when the amplifier posits there in the first house or the ascendant, it makes the native quite unsatisfied with himself or herself, with his or her achievements, or with whatever he or she deems as theirs. Rahu, the amplifier positing there, makes the native quite arrogant and selfish, always engrossed in the rat race to working, to attaining stops, to quenching their desires for more and more for their very self, and to attaining stuff for more and more for their very self. Such natives often, very often, tend to becoming quite selfish and arrogant, being oblivious of everything else around him or her. Now, let's understand the seventh house. Seventh house is the house of relations, is the house of business, is the house of the spouse, is the house of the representation of the situations on the basis of our reactions according to our desires. And when Ketu, the planet carrying our prarabdhal legacy, posits there, it also indicates that the natives are going to face illusory representation of situations on the basis of his or her prarabdhal significance, to teaching him or her a required lesson towards rectifying his or her very soul, so that Mother Earth can bless him or her with the abundance that she has in her offering for all of her children. So, the placement of Ketu in the seventh house indicates such sort of illusory representation of situations for the purpose of the rectification of the very soul of the concerned native, with so that the natives may be able to bring about transformation within him, in himself or herself, through appropriate or rectified or the most appropriate behavioral responses and reactions. Now, let's understand the two types of situations. As we have understood so far that there will be two types of situations, one will be the real and the illusory. Now, what is real and what is illusory? Let's understand that. So, there will be two types of situations, one on the basis of our reactions according to our desires, and one will be on the basis of our prarabdhal pattern or prarabdhal significance. Now, if we react to the first, we will see our material desires surfacing into reality in front of us, and if we react to the second, we will see our karmic pattern getting surfaced in front of us in the form of practicality. But the real problem is that these situations will get hidden by the presentation or the illusory representation of situations presented in front of us for the purpose of the rectification of our soul, to get our soul relieved or get our soul relieved from the consequences of the mistakes that we have kept on committing through cycle of births after births. Now, Rahu-Ketu Axis is the backbone of a particular natal chart, and it clearly interprets the prarabdhal significance or the karmic pattern of our very soul. Now, what we will have to do, we will have just to adapt to the most appropriate and the rectified behavioral responses towards everything that we are encountering while existing in this world of Maya or the Mother Earth. Now first, let's get into the ultimate truth. Rahu positing at the first house will turn natives to becoming self-obsessed, arrogant and quite selfish, to attaining stops, to quenching their desires for more and more for their very self, and they will think that they are doing that, or they will try to present that in a way that they are doing that for their family or the society they are existing in, but the real truth or the real fact is that they are doing that for their very self. And they won't be able to hide this truth for a longer period of time. So, the ultimate truth is the adoption of the ultimate truth is the awareness of how destiny is asking him or her to change, to bring about transformation in himself or herself by through adoption of the most appropriate and rectified behavioral responses towards this world of Maya. So, I mean to say that the adoption of the most appropriate and the rectified behavioral responses towards everything else, towards everything that he or she is encountering with, and the knowledge of doing that is the way that destiny is asking him or her to move forward, to avoid the wrath of the traffic police from the ultimate core of the nemesis. And by doing that only, miracles can happen quite wonderfully. What even $1,000 spent for precious gems or remedies can even think of. Now guys, let's understand the impact of the Rahu in the first house. As we have all get to know that Rahu in the first house makes the natives stay engrossed in the rat race to become victorious in the so-called Darwinian struggle of existence, turning themselves quite self-obsessed, arrogant and selfish, even very selfish. But here you'll have to understand one thing. That Rahu is the dragon's head and it has no body. So such natives will always search for a body, search for a relationship, will search for a business partner, will search for a perfect spouse, or whatever the particular planet positioning in the 7th house in that concerned particular natal chart indicates to. Because such natives know from their very innate that they are incomplete without their body. And as Ketu is positing in the 7th house, so business colleagues or partners, other relations, other specific kind of relationship or relationship with spouse will be the kind of spheres such natives will try to find their body in. But here you'll have to remember one more thing, that as such natives are, as Rahu is making, as the amplifier is making them quite self-obsessed, arrogant and selfish towards attaining stuff for the accomplishment for their very self, they will tend to ignore this relation. They will tend to ignore their business partners. They will tend to ignore their spouse. And they can't avoid the fact that they want support from their relationship. So they will want support from their relationship or from their spouse or from their business partners in such a way that they are doing such things for themselves, for them. But the reality is not that. The reality is that they are applying a kind of hideous approach, that they are doing things for them, though they are completely self-obsessed and they are doing things only for the accomplishment for their very selves, only for quenching the thirst of more and more for their very self. I mean to say that they will, in a word, use their relation or spouse to attaining stuffs, to quenching thirst for their very own self-obsessed desires. But the real fact is that pearls, they won't be able to hide this truth for a longer period of time, because nemesis can never be denied. So their spousal relation will sooner or later understand the truth, and they will start reacting in the opposite way, posing hindrances in their way of achieving stuffs for the accomplishment or the quenching of the thirst of their very self, of the desires for their very self. And this will certainly, it is quite obvious that this will make such natives quite frustrated, disturbed, but the real fact is that the more they will get frustrated, the more they will feel disturbed, the more they will get desperate, the worse the situation will turn into. Ultimately ending up in facing the wrath of the traffic police from the ultimate code of the nemesis. Now pause, let's move forward and sum up this video with the remedies. Remedies of behavioral reactions, the right track, the awareness of the right track. So, no remedy can work, I have told you earlier, and it's for certain. Only the realization that they are using their relation, they are using their spouse for the satisfaction of their very desires. The ultimate awareness of the transformation through their behavioral responses and reactions towards their relation spouse, as indicated by the Ketu positioning at the 7th house. Things can start changing. Only the adoption of the most appropriate and the rectified behavioral responses can help in this case. But here you have to understand that Rahu-Ketu are shadowy planets, and they react and indicate stuffs through their dispositor planets. So you will have to take this as a general analysis, because stuffs will vary from natal charts to natal charts according to the dispositor planets of the Rahu and Ketu, or the lordship planet, or the names of the zodiac signs of the 1st house and the 7th house. So the real fact is that such natives should have to maintain a balance between their desires and an honest approach towards their spouse through adopting the most appropriate and rectified behavioral reactions and responses towards their business colleagues or spouse, by rectifying the mistakes they have done to their spouse, or while managing relational affairs with their business colleagues or office colleagues, or with every single stuff they have encountered with while existing in their previous births. They will have to adapt to rectified behavioral responses and reactions to rectifying those mistakes that they had committed in their previous birth, through cycle of previous births. Now, there will be illusions for such natives that they may want to break free from such relation or from their spouse through divorce, to welcoming a new relationship, to start a new beginning. But here, pause, do remember my words. If you do that, if you break your relationship with your business partners for your very self-interest, or if you take respite from your spouse, from the relationship you are already engaged in through divorce or any such kind of legal affairs, the situation is going to turn into the worst one, and the rest of life, through the rest of your life, you are going to repent for such deeds. Because Rahu-Ketu Axis is the backbone of your natal chart, and such Rahu-Ketu Axis with Rahu positioning in the 1st house and Ketu at the 7th house clearly indicates that you have already done such sort of mistake in your previous births also. You have in your previous birth have used your business partners or your relation or your spouse for your very self-interest. Now, there will also be representation of situation present in front of you to getting committed to doing such kind of mistakes again. But the fact is that such situations are getting presented in front of you so that you can understand that you have done such kind of mistakes in your previous births, and now it is your time to stand up to the level, to promising to yourself not to committing to such kind of mistakes again. And if you do that, or if you even think of doing that, the situations are really going to be worse, ultimately landing you up in a situation where you will have no way but facing the wrath of the traffic police. So remember my words and adopt to the most appropriate and the rectified behavioral responses and reaction towards your spouse, towards any any specific kind of relationship that you are encountering in this world of Maya for this existing birth, and by doing that you can create wonders in your life. And many of my viewers have already asked me to use subtitles, and I have not been able to use subtitles because lack of time for my involvement in the studies, so that I can come up in front of you with lot more informations and informations on how you can change your behavioral reactions to the most appropriate rectified one, so that you won't have to spend even a single penny for precious gemstones or so-called things in the name of remedies. So I have already written everything what I'm telling you in letters with image-based description in my website. You may easily visit to my website at www.shandipishastrology.com, and the links will also be available there in the description box to get everything in written format with image-based description. And pause if this information have helped you to enriching your insight. Do hit the like button, subscribe button, so that I may feel more encouraged into delivering the information that are going to help you, costing even a single penny. Because astrology is a science and it is made for this. It is not made for blah blah blah. So thank you, and remember my words and wait for my next video. Until then, stay healthy, stay blessed.